Once a cop, let it knock, yeah. I for one thing we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, up, talking truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop.
Pull up a seat. You're now in Corey's Corner, where right conversations matter. I'm your host, Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Today on Corey's Corner, we are joined by a leader whose names carry weight across New York City and beyond. Assistant Chief, retired Kevin A. Williams Sr. With nearly 30 years of distinguished service in the NYPD, Chief Williams rose through the ranks from patrol officer in the 88 Precinct to commanding Patrol Borough Queens South, where he led thousands of officers and partnered with community leaders, clergy, and elected officials to reduce crime and strengthen trust. His career spanned some of the department's most critical commands, from precinct leaderships to internal affairs, counterterrorism, Patrol Service Bureau, and the creation of the new 116 Precinct in Queens. Known for his calm command presence and commitment to justice, he has championed officers' wellness, youth empowerment, and anti-violence initiatives across the city. Today, he continues that mission as founder of K.A. Williams and Advisors, advising institutions on leadership, public safety, and community resilience. A proud Queens native, devoted father, husband, grandfather, Chief Williams' legacy is one of integrity, service, and impact. Chief, welcome to Corey's Corner.
Yo, happy to be here, Corey.
Been waiting for you to come on, man.
I appreciate the invitation.
You've been busy, retired. Welcome to Every Day is Saturday. You know, I've been retired since 13. It's nice, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I can't even get you. K.A. Williams and Associates is popping already. Look at this. How long is it? A couple of months?
It's going to be 6 months in a couple of days.
6 months.
Yes,
wow.
sir.
Okay, before we jump into our next segment, let me get a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Corey's Corner is proudly sponsored by A+ Jewelers, your trusted destination for quality craftsmanship and pieces that tell a story. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, upgrading your collection, or choosing that perfect gift, A+ Jeweler delivers excellence with every shine. From custom design to timeless classics, they bring luxury within reach. All right, let's do it. Take us back to the beginning. What was life like growing up in Queens, and what first inspired you to pursue a career in law enforcement?
You know, Corey, when I look back at my life in Queens, it was just the average everyday life.
What part of Queens?
I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, off of Suffolk Boulevard, no doubt.
Southside.
Southside, we outside. You're going to hear that a lot from me. You know, I live with my parents, lifelong Queens residents, and it was just, you know, for me, a perfect childhood. You know, even with everything that was going around in the community, you know, never really affected me too much directly. You know, I would ride my bike from Jamaica all the way. My grandparents grew up off of Merrick Boulevard. Mm-hmm. You know, huge family gatherings all the time. We got together all the major holidays. My sister and I, you know, we were only 2 kids. You know, she unfortunately went to Hillcrest High School. I went to August Martin High School.
I hated both of them. I'm from Andrew Jackson.
Absolutely. Okay. You know, so it was just to me, I look back, perfect childhood. You know, living in the city, it was just awesome, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. You know, what got me on the path of this, my father was a retired police officer. At the time, he was actually an active police officer. My mother worked in the office. So I've always been around policing. Always been around people in policing who look to make an impact, not only within the department, but also within the community. So that always, you know, when you're a kid, Corey, you don't understand, you know, but as you become a man and you grow, you see how those seeds were planted in you indirectly. And so, you know, my father was very big in the Guardians Association. So, you know, I saw the fight that African-American police officers had to go through, but also seeing policing as something of value. I mean, listen, it supported me. Mm-hmm. It put me and my sister through college. It gave us a very good life. So, you know, it was always in the back of the mind. You know, I went away to college. I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
You went to HBCU?
No, I actually went to the University of Maryland at College Park.
Right.
My sister went to Howard University, and something just drew me to criminal justice and wanting to be a police officer. I originally had plans to, do law enforcement in Maryland, to be quite honest with you. But when you go to a school and you major in partying and your parents tell you the gig is up and they're not paying for your education anymore, you have to pivot. So
Right.
the pivot was, and I truly believe everything, your steps are ordered. I came home from school. Parents weren't the most excited about my grades that last semester. Said, yo, you're not going back to Maryland? My father said, you're going to take these tests. Again, like I said, I wanted to do law enforcement, but I wasn't really thinking the NYPD. And, Corey, to tell you how things are funny. So my father signed me up in the test in 93. The day I had to take my test was the same day as the Jones Beach Greek Fest on Jones
The
Beach.
Greek Fest.
I
Wow.
was tight. But I had to go take the test.
Right.
Again, it shows again how things align. Corey, I took that test like in 1 hour. Because, back in the days, you had to get on the beach by a certain time or you couldn't get up on there.
Right.
So, ironically, I took it at Whack Hillcrest, but took the test. And at that time, it took a long time for you to decide, So it took 3 years for the process. And then in 1996, I became a member of the agency.
Man, let me tell you, before we go to the next question, I have to look in the camera and shout out Papa Williams, my man, Mr. Williams, a stalwart in the New York City Police Department. Understand he probably came in the job in the 70s?
1969.
1969. So I need y'all to understand, when he came in, you talking about Black Panther riots, Martin Luther King Jr. dying, layoffs in the early 70s. Did he get laid off?
Yes.
He was laid off, had to come back. I mean, he is a true hero for Black officers today. So we gotta give him his just due. I love you, Mr. Williams, Mrs. Williams. Who we can't forget Mom.
Yeah, don't forget about Mom Dukes.
We can't forget Mom Dukes. But I just wanted to make sure I personally shout out Mr. Williams. He's always been a very, very nice, humble man. I'll have to shout him out. So in 1996, you was in the 88 precinct. What do you remember about those early days on patrol, and how did they shape the leader you will become?
Well, the early days of patrol, at first.
Now let me just jump in.
Okay.
88 precinct is known as like the precinct with the finest women in Brooklyn. I don't know how they all went to the 88 precinct, but all of the fine women went to the 88 precinct. You get assigned to the 88 precinct, you're around all of these fine women. How did you even get to take the sergeant's test?
Well, let's start by when I started out. So for a lot of people, obviously, downtown Brooklyn, Fort Greene area, which I will always call it, is not the Fort Greene area that it is today. So, but it was fun. You learn how to become a police officer. I would also say, despite of what it was known in the 88 precinct, you had a lot of good brothers and sisters there that really took you under the wing and made it an enjoyable learning experience to learn how to police. Obviously, as a rookie, you start on a foot post.
Right.
And at the time, the community was going through a change. It just started changing. So it was fun going out there. I remember as a rookie, they originally put us on Lafayette and Fulton, working 6 at night to 2 in the morning. It was a lot of things you could see and learn. And then one day the commanding officer came in and said, listen, we post changing y'all. And they put us on Ashland and Myrtle, which is right in front of, Ingersoll Whitman housing development. Again, but still, you learned, you interacted with the people in the community. I enjoyed it, to be quite honest with you. I tell people, some of the best times I had in the police department when I was a police officer, responding to calls of service, just interacting with the community.
Right.
I think that's where you learn the craft of interacting with people, understanding people, reaching people where they are, So I kind of learned that because, again, it was at the time starting to be a mixture in the 88 precinct of a lot of different socioeconomic backgrounds and people of different cultures. So I enjoyed it, to be quite honest with you.
At what point did you realize that leadership was a calling?
It's interesting. So again, one of the biggest things I've harped on, and one of the things I've tried to do Now with my company with leadership mentor development, I always had a mentor. So, I was very fortunate to have my father as my first mentor.
Right.
And, one of the things he first told me is, listen, you come on this job, you got to make boss. You got to become a supervisor. My father retired as sergeant. I was very fortunate when I was in the academy to be exposed because in 1996 they had the sergeant exam. I think you took that sergeant exam.
Yeah.
So people were studying. So I had a instructor. Her name was Janice Brown, and sometimes you just see it.
Shout
she
out,
was,
Janice.
yeah, definitely shout out to Janice. She was studying at the time. Actually, her and Debbie Martinez. And I want to say your test was like in October or something like that. So she was studying, she exposed me to it. And, just talking about, listen, there's different type of tracks you could go in this department. But as far as being a supervisor and being a leader, they imparted that into me. So I always knew that was the path I wanted to go on.
So my motivation was, I came out the military. So I knew what the power structure was. And my first job was with the Supreme Team. So the Supreme Team was a drug organization, but it was like Supreme was the president, Prince was the vice president, Bimmy, Green Apple, all of those guys were lieutenants, and I was a street worker. So I kind of knew power structure. And plus, dealing with a lot of racism, you understand, when me and you was cops, it wasn't a lot of black bosses. It was a male, white dominated field.
Absolutely.
So that was some of my motivation also. So you go from sergeant in 2001, I believe it is.
Yes.
To chief in 2022. Now, for the people that understand, from cop to chief is about 8 ranks. You got, cop, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, deputy inspector, inspector, chief. So it's about 8 ranks high. It's a monumental task. What promotion challenged you the most and why?
Whew. I was, looking back, I think
that's the question I wanted you to answer because you went through all these different ranks.
I want to say it's 2 ranks, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
Obviously, I think going to a sergeant, from being a police officer to a sergeant, now you have to provide leadership and supervision to men and women that
you're a young sergeant.
Yes, I was what they call a 5-year wonder.
Right, and you supervising people with 20 years, 25.
Yeah, but that was a tough transition because, one, you never let anybody really too much. Like I said, I came from a college atmosphere, and then I this is my second job that I had, and now I'm responsible for 8 to 10 people in my squad. So that was a tough transition. And then the second transition that was
you made it look
challenging,
easy.
somewhat. The second one that was challenging was going from lieutenant to captain, because now you're an executive in the agency, and so now you have to think more globally than what you did, because sergeant's in charge of a squad, a lieutenant's in charge of a platoon, but now you could be possibly in charge of a lot of police officers, maybe heading the precinct, but also when you're the duty captain, you're basically representative of the New York City Police Department, and you have to make decisions, based on a global perspective of what's best not only for the officers that work for you, but the community, also for the agency in the city as well.
Okay, since you brought up being a sergeant, let me throw this picture up. You remember this picture right here?
Yeah, well, that's back in the days.
That's August 2001.
Yes.
You and I are sergeants in the 8-1 precinct.
Absolutely.
I believe our commanding officer was PB3, or was it Elton Muhammad at the time?
No, it was Phil.
Phil Banks III.
Yes.
What's different about this? What do you see in this picture? What you see is crazy in this picture.
Well, you see, Corey has a white shirt on, and then I have a blue shirt on. So it was a transition where there was a time when they had the sergeants wear white shirts, because traditionally, historically, you didn't wear a white shirt until you became a lieutenant. So I think it based off of some corruption scandal or something like that. They decided that every supervisor should have a white shirt. Police Commissioner Kelly becomes a police commissioner again, and they go back to the blue shirt. So you see the kind of there was a short period of time where you could wear either or. right? And then they put the hammer down that you had to wear the blue shirt as a sergeant. So that's what that picture is.
Yo, Kev, that's crazy. Preparing for this interview, I don't know. I'm just going through some pictures, and I find this picture of you and me. We looking like we 17 years old. We young sergeants,
young supervisors.
But I'm like, I got a white shirt on. You got this had to be. It must have only been like 2.5 weeks that we could do that.
It was a very short period.
It was a very short period. So see, we got history. You see that? White shirt, blue shirt, both with chevrons on, sergeants. I bet you nobody. I challenge anybody else to post that picture up with you and your buddy with a white shirt and a blue shirt. I bet you we probably the only people that got that picture. Funny, right? Now, you worked in communities that have felt, over policed and undeserved at the same time. What do you believe police must do differently to truly meet the needs of black and brown neighborhoods or minority or undeserved communities?
Well, I think police saying you have to understand that you're there to serve the community. One of my biggest models that I said to police officers, we work with one another, regardless of your rank. We all have a job, but we do work for the community. And you have to understand, one, the historic relationship between the police and the community. And also you have to have direct, honest relationships and conversations with people in the community. Because I don't care, what community you come from, people want to feel safe. So the question is, how do we make them safe? I'm a true believer that we can have crime reduction, we can increase the quality of life, but it does not have to come at the expense of police-community relations. That is just as important. It's probably more important than it is reducing crime and also increasing quality of life. Because, I want crime reduced in my neighborhood, and I think we should do that as an agency. But if we're doing it where we're disrespecting the community, not doing what right by the community, it doesn't mean anything. It's a hollow victory.
Exactly.
And so I've made sure that we communicated with the community, right? Open conversation. People, Wendy Williams said it the best. Straight talk leads to straight understanding. Mm-hmm. And you have to have that conversation, but you also have to build that relationship in the beginning, because you can't start a relationship from a crisis standpoint, because there's no trust there. You're not going to be effective there. So you have to start in the beginning. So, one of the things I've always stressed in all my assignments, whether it was as a supervisor or now as a borough commander, that you have to get into the community, engage the community. Doesn't mean that you're always going to agree, because you're not. Mm-hmm. But you have to have the honest dialogue. And I think that's what made, in my opinion, what we did very, very effective.
Let me tell you, you said something that's very important. And I remember being a CEO of PSA2, and there'd be a shooting, and you probably know Danny from Brownsville. He'll call me and be like, "Commander, I got the gun." And I'm like, "All right, bring it in. Brown paper bag, just, tell them you're coming to see me." And the detectives would be mad at me, as if I was on the take. But like you said, I built relationships before the shooting. Y'all go to the scene. Yo, detectives would drive me crazy. They come to the scene and be like, "Yo, get my car, get my car." I'm like, you trying to kill us? Why are you telling these people to get in the car? You got to build relationships where you could just look at somebody and be like, "All right, meet me around the corner or call me." But you growing up on Sufton, I'm growing up on Murder. We kind of lived in these communities, so we kind of know what we had to do. Let me ask you this. What qualities, you mentored a lot of cops over the years, what qualities in leadership are you looking for future police now?
The qualities I think that a future leader in police, or even a current leader in police, you have to have clear communication, you have to have integrity, and you have to master, which is one of the hardest words for people to say to people, no. Sometimes you have to say no. You cannot please everybody, and that's on both sides of the aisle. You can't please every police officer, lieutenant, sergeant that works with you, and you can't please everybody in the community. You can't do everything. Mm-hmm. So you have to master that, and you have to be in tune not only with your police officers, but in tune with the community. One of the things that you can't have blanket policing, and what I mean by that is what may work in the 8-1 precinct in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, does not work in Southside Queens. Mm-hmm. It's two different communities. One of the biggest things, I had the honor of being the commanding officer of the 2A precinct in Harlem. So Harlem is different than Queens. In Harlem, everybody barbecues in the front of their house.
Well, they don't have houses.
They don't have it, but they barbecue on the side because of the structure of the community.
Exactly.
Whereas in Queens, that's like a no-no. Go in your backyard. Now, obviously, there's issues there, but you have to be sensitive to that. You know, one of the things, you can't have a zero tolerance policy in regards to barbecuing, even though, there are some situations, but that's where it comes when you understand the community. Yeah, you and I know, and I'm just using this as an example, so please, the people at home don't get upset. You and I know if they doing that on 117th between Lenox and 7th Avenue.
16th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, but if they do it on 114th between 7th and 8th, you can't allow it to happen.
Exactly.
You know, so it's about that. It's about understanding, and leaders need to understand that. And also, another thing that I would stress, and I continue to stress to our police leaders, again, you have to hold the people that work with you accountable. Good, bad, or ugly. You have to hold them accountable, because Corey, I truly believe this, and you can see it time and time again. You know, most things happen because it's not addressed in the beginning. If you address it in the beginning, it's like human nature. If you stop the drip in the beginning, you're not going to get a flood. But if you never stop the drip, then it's going to lead to a flood. So I think those are the things that I continue to stress. You know, that's one of the things that we see, and one of the reasons why I decided to do what I wanted to do in regards to consulting, because you see that leadership gap. And not only policing, but anything in life.
Right.
But it has a more profound effect when you're dealing with public safety.
Man, Kevin Williams, retired deputy chief, is dropping some real jewels. You hear this? Stop the drip before it's a flood. And he didn't say this, but I'm going to tell you what he was saying. To be a good commander, you got to master the 3 C's. He kind of said it. Cops, community, and crime. Not in any particular order, but if you master all 3 of those, you'll be very successful. I need you to look in your camera, and you need to say what, because you dropping so many nuggets, and I don't want to interrupt you, but you need to let every police commander or future new police commander know right now that when you walk through the door, everybody hates you. Please.
Well, I wouldn't say everybody hates you.
A lot.
It's the fear of the unknown.
Exactly.
So you, as a person that's coming in leading a precinct, you got to let the people know what you stand and what you're about.
And it's not just policing.
It's leadership.
Yeah.
You have to set what your standard is, and you have to communicate what that standard is to the people that work with you, to the people in the community, you know, even up the chain of command, you know, and then you have to stand by it and be consistent. You know, leadership is also about consistency. And, you know, obviously there's individual situations and you have to, you know, handle that situation, but you have to be consistent with it. You know, one of the things I've learned early on, I never forget, I had a lieutenant in the 8-8 precinct. His name was Lieutenant Layden. You can set your watch by this man's roll call. He was the 3rd platoon commander. He had roll call every day at 3 o'clock, and nobody was late because he was consistent with it. And I mean, it was incredible to me. And when he wasn't there, everybody was late. So what do you think the difference was? So you have to have consistency in your leadership. And so when you walk into the command and people are going to feel, it's like a feeling out period. People are going to feel you out. You're going to feel people out. So it could grow. It depends on how you're going to grow it as a commanding officer.
Thank you for that. So on Corey's Corner, we have this fun segment called Spitfire Round. Okay. I'm going to ask you like 10 to 11 quick questions. I need yes or no answer or one-word answers.
Okay.
Like the sky is blue, yes or no.
Okay.
You know, it's a fun thing. You ready?
Let's
Brooklyn
go.
or Queens?
Queens.
Coffee or tea to start your day?
Tea.
Your go-to leadership motto in one word?
It is what it is.
Favorite precinct you ever worked in?
The 8-1 precinct.
Yeah, we had fun. One thing every young officer must learn early.
How to effectively communicate with the community.
Most New York thing about you?
Most New York thing about me? My love for the Knicks, even though they kill me time and time again.
That's like this year we looking.
I've heard that for a lot of years.
I know. If you weren't in law enforcement, what career would you choose?
If I wasn't in law enforcement, I would probably be a lawyer.
You better get this one right. This one right here, you better get. It better be a song from your guy. A song that gets you instantly motivated.
Whew. Shut Them Down by Public Enemy.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. 3 words your officers would use to describe you.
Consistent. Some people would say I'm unapproachable. And straightforward.
You take it. Last one. Legacy or impact? Choose one.
Impact.
Thank you for participating in the Spitfire round. That was good. That was good. Now, so I'm going to go back to the song question.
Yes.
Many people don't know, but Kevin Williams is a huge or was a huge Prince fan. He kept this undercover. For all these years I've known him.
It was never undercover. You just said, listen.
I didn't know. So, God bless, rest in peace, Prince.
Absolutely.
When Prince died, I'm like following your social media and stuff. Like you posting up all this stuff. Next thing I know, he's at the Purple Rain Mansion. It was like within a week or two you was out there?
No, it was actually, so I am a huge Prince fan.
That's why when I asked you the question,
I know, but you said what motivates me, like gets me amped.
It gotta be a Prince song.
A Prince song doesn't get me amped. Prince actually mellows me out, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
I'm a huge Prince fan, and when he died, because everybody knows it.
Except for me.
You didn't listen. Like a lot of major moments in my life, there's a Prince song that goes with it, to be quite honest with you. And when Prince died, I never forget, in 2016, I was at work. I was in the counterterrorism division. My immediate supervisor at the time comes in and says, "Yo, there's something going on at Prince house." And I turn on CNN, and they told me he died. And one of his albums, they go,
You
Prince
said CNN. You're gonna get all the Fox people mad at you now, right?
It was what it was. I was probably the only one in there that had CNN on. But anyway, and there's an album in Prince, and there's a Prince Está Muerto, when Prince is dead, and he was actually dead. And listen. I never understood it. I'll be quite honest with you. Like when Michael Jackson died, I never understood how people had that connection. But when the artist died and Prince died, it did touch me personally. And yes, I did end up going out to Paisley Park. I actually went. He died in April. I went out in October because at the time there was a back and forth legal battle of whether or not they were going to allow people to continue to visit Paisley Park. Mm-hmm. And I was able to go to Paisley Park, walk around there, the incredible studio. I was able to drive around Minneapolis, never been there before. Went to his original house where he recorded my favorite Prince song. My favorite Prince song is Forever in My Life. And I went to the house, the mansion that he owned, where you couldn't go in there, but you saw, and it was just an incredible thing. And he was an incredible artist. Musician, everything.
So that's a fun fact about retired Chief Kevin A. Williams. Before we start back and jump into it, I want to take a second to talk about something close to me. As many of you know, a lot of what we discuss here is about accountability, leadership, and redemption. And I'd be remiss again if I don't plug my book, Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. As a matter of fact, the day my book came out, Kevin and his lovely wife Darlene was there at my book signing. It's personal. That's why I wrote the book, Once a Cop. It's my story from the streets to the NYPD. And it was turned into a feature documentary, which is streaming on Hulu and Apple TV, called A Cops and Robbers Story. Thank you for all the people who have supported the book and the documentary. And good luck to the people that didn't purchase it or watch it yet. Hit me up on Corey's Corner at gmail.com and let me know your thoughts. Shout out to Corrupt Mob, the powerhouse behind the studio that's making this production possible. And they gave me some new upgrades today. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys.
Looking Looking for the perfect gift that sparkles? Discover A-Plus Jewelry, your trusted neighborhood jeweler located at 3041 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown, Long Island. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, popping the question, or simply treating yourself, A-Plus Jewelry offers stunning diamonds, custom pieces, expert repairs, and unbeatable service. Quality you can trust. Prices you'll love. Service that keeps you coming back. Visit A-Plus Jewelry today, where every moment becomes a treasure.
Let's jump back into it. You oversaw the final stages of establishing the 116th precinct. Why was that precinct so important for the community, and what did it take to bring it over the finish line? Before you answer, man, what an incredible assignment to be Patrol Borough, Queens South, where you was born and bred and grew up, and be the top dog. How many people was under your command? 6,000, 7,000?
About 6,000 uniform and civilian members of the service.
So for the people around the world that's listening, he had over 6,000 to 7,000 people underneath him. That's most police departments. That's a whole. That'd be like the second biggest precinct police department in the country. I think LA got like 7 or 8. So, what was that feeling like?
You know what? I talked about this the day I retired, and it kind of goes back to the awesome power of that God, and He could do things that blow your mind. So, this community and the Southeast community for decades wanted another precinct. The 105 precinct encompassed probably the largest square mile coverage in the city at that time, and they were fighting for another precinct. So, and
I mean, for decades they was
decades,
talking about
going to 7. When my father was a rookie cop and he was assigned to the 105, they were still talking about building a precinct in the southeastern part of Queens. So it was probably 2014, 2015 when de Blasio became mayor and Commissioner Bratton came back. They talked about opening the 116th precinct. So there's a satellite station that they use to divide the command down in the Rosedale section of Queens. So, I'm a deputy inspector at the time. I'm in counterterrorism. And, I'm just simple. I thought they would just open a precinct like that. You had the satellite down there. So I wanted to be the commanding officer of that precinct, to be quite honest with you. Right. And I called somebody in the police commissioner's office. They basically told me, Kev, it's not going to work like that. So I said, okay. They have to build a new precinct, this, that, and the other. Fast forward how God, gives you things that blow your mind. He makes me the commanding officer as we're finishing the building of the 116th precinct. So it was awesome. One of the things that, I wanted to make sure that the police officers from the leadership all the way on down looked like the community, was responsive to the community, was respectful, to the community. So it was an awesome responsibility. And also, again, you learn a lot because you learn what it takes to staff a precinct, not only in regards to the staff, but also resource allocation, resource management, getting new equipment, and also being sensitive to the community. Because one of the biggest things that I fought for in the community was parking for the police officers. Because, when any precinct, they overtake a community when it comes to parking. Right. And that leads to friction between the people in the community. So there was some additional land that was to the side of the 116th precinct. And, when I became the command officer, I was adamant that parking become part. Now, people think it's a small thing, but try to find parking, especially in Southeast Queens, at different times of night. So we didn't want that to be a point of contention between the police and the community. But to sit there and see it open, next month will make 1 year since the command was up and running and functional. It was truly one of the honors that I had during my time in the New York City Police Department.
Well, congratulations, because you're going to be in the history books. They'll never be able to take that away from you, implementing and helping to get that precinct up and running. Good job.
And it goes back to what you said. It was about the impact. It's not about the legacy.
Yeah. See, he even pays attention on the interviews. He pays attention. I like it. Okay. From your experience in the Internal Affairs Support Services Bureau, What did that role teach you about integrity, accountability, and the culture of policing? Because I know you're in internal affairs. Me never been in internal affairs. I think everybody's on the take. I think everything is whatever. Because I'm not in there. Now you're in there and you're seeing. So from what I hear from we have mutual friends like former chief of IB, Miguel Iglesias and stuff. A lot of this stuff is minutia, from what I understand.
What you learn, one of the things I learned when I was in IB that, you know, it's not as bad as people make it, right? You know, we're dealing with an agency that has 50,000 members, uniform and civilian. And so a number of complaints that come into the IB call center are minute compared to the number of police officers and civilians that you have in the agency. You know, so that's the first thing you learn. The second thing you learn is that, like you said, it's a lot of stuff that, you know, you could kind of say it's not corruption. You know, it could be negative workplace behavior and that needs to be addressed. Absolutely. Right. But, you know, you're not seeing levels of serious corruption to that point.
There's no Marlin Commission.
Yeah, it's not, you know, modeling out or anything like that. And then also another thing that I learned that in that you have to have people in that position in internal affairs that have, what I say, a global perspective. You know, you just can't see everything one way. There's a lot of gray. Everything's not black and white. And I'm not saying from a racial standpoint, but I'm just saying from a perspective standpoint. You know, you have to have people that have experience that can see beyond certain things. Because sometimes on paper, because I always tell people this, policing can be, quote unquote, a dirty sport. People may not like the way it looks at the time, but you have to look back, peel back. So you need to have experienced people that can see that so they could properly investigate. And then also it goes back to what I said before. It is what it is. If it's messed up or it's something that is misconduct or it is corruption, then you have to do what you have to do. Because again, it's not just about that individual police officer or that member of the service that's doing something wrong. It's about the agency and keeping the accountability and trust with the community.
Okay, I got a couple of follow-ups that's not on the cards because you got the wheels turning. Outside people think that internal affairs protect police and they're not trying to expose anything.
No, that's not true. I think in the Internal Affairs Bureau, you have people that want the right thing done. It's not just an automatic, you know, we're going to protect the police officers. You have some people who say they look to do police officers in to try to justify their existence.
Right.
You have people that sit there and actually, you know, want righteous policing. You know, also want cops that if an allegation come in, to be thoroughly investigated, and if necessary, them being exonerated. You know, you have police officers whose careers were put on hold for things that, you know, necessarily shouldn't have been put on hold for.
Right.
But also conversely, you have situations where there are people who are not fit to be New York City police officers, and that has to be rooted out, and that's what they need to do, and they do in the Internal Affairs Bureau.
New mayor of New York City, January 1st. Thank God. Oh, Lord. Thank you. This is Kevin. This is me talking. January 1st.
Yes.
Mandami. He's talking about changing the CCRB, right? Where they can have disciplinary power. So, just my position always on CCRB was, I don't even really care if they change it, but they need to have at least, 7 people? At least 3 people got to have a police background, for me. Because you need somebody in there to say, oh, wait. No, this is how policing goes. And now the PBA, SBA, LBA, all the unions are up in arms about changing the CCRB. How do you feel about this change? I know right now they got Sly Fox on CCRB. You probably call him Chief Fox, or Joe Fox, whatever. I know he's on there. Not the greatest guy, but he's on there. How do you feel about Zoran Mayor Mandami changing it, where they have power? Because right now they only have recommendations, right?
Yes. They
recommend to the police commissioner, Corey Pegues did this, he should be whatever. Now the police commissioner gets it and says, I'm not disciplining him. Get it away. And that pisses off the public. So he's trying to change it, saying, whatever they say, that's what it is. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know if that's going to necessarily work, to be quite honest with you. I think it goes back to what you said. You know, you have to have different perspectives in the room to come to a decision.
No, let's say he put 3, it's 4, at least 3 cops. 3 cops or law enforcement background is in there, and they collectively come up and say, yo, Kevin Williams, he messed up on this. We think they should take 5 days. Now, you got the people with the backgrounds.
Again, Corey, I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know if they should be the final arbiter of whether a police officer, stays on the job or the level of discipline.
But we know what the police commission been doing a lot of bullshit. We
Well,
could just
again-
look at Jeff Madry, right? We could look at Jeff Madry. Some people call him Freaky Jeff, allegedly. So, discipline came from CCRB. We know what he did. The police commissioner wanted him out. The mayor was like, that's my guy, keep him here. And then all hell broke loose. So, you know, you have those examples too. When
Okay.
it stays into the police commissioner's hand and the PC works for the mayor, it could be a problem.
Well, it could be either way, Corey. I'm going to be very, very honest with you. It could go both ways. It could be a problem if it's total control of the CCRB. It could be a total problem if it sticks with the PC. I'm not saying the system that we have is perfect right now. I think we should examine different models that could possibly work. I'm not saying all of one and one side or the other is the answer. You know, because if it worked currently, then we wouldn't have the problems that we have now,
Right.
or the perceived problems that we have now. And then if it goes the other way, we may still have, because you may have a situation where they may make a decision that people are not happy about. So you got to find a system, I think a check and balance system that can work. Obviously, there's problems with the current system. Obviously, we should look at different ways, but I don't know if one total way to the other works, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, well, you know, you on Corey's corner, so I got to push you.
No, it's all good, Corey. It's all good.
Push you to the edge.
And I'm going to, like people say, I say, keep it a buck. I keep it a buck with you.
Keep it right, not real. We love it. So, which assignment tested your integrity most, and how did you navigate those challenges?
I think the big assignment that tested I don't think my integrity was ever questioned, but I think one thing where you had to really take a lot of different factors and not see everything as clearly black and white was being a commanding officer of a precinct. You know, when you're dealing with the lives
Probably your best assignments, right?
it was one of the best assignments, absolutely. When you're dealing with the lives of police officers, their personal lives, you know, even civilian members of the service, and you're dealing with the lives of civilians, you know, the members of the community, you know, you have to, again, have a line. You have to look at it from both perspectives, but at the end of the day, you have to make the proper call. Like I said earlier, you know, one of the things you have to learn is to say no, right? Or make a decision based on everything that you have and stand by that decision. So I never questioned my integrity. I don't think my integrity ever came into question, but you had situations where you really had to give thought about it, and you really have to, you know, think about it, about what you're going to do and how it impacts. You know, I will say this: when you're in a position, and this is another thing about leadership, you know, it's not a silo. You are not the end all, the be all. You need to bounce things off of people. You know, I never forget this. I made a decision as a commanding officer. I went home and I told my kids, and, you know, basically my kids set me straight about how the decision I made was a wrong one. You know, my son actually said, "Dad, you know what? That's the reason why people hate police." No, seriously. He said that, and I had to think about that.
No, yeah,
And I
that's
changed
real.
and I changed course in regards to that. You know, obviously it wasn't a life or death decision.
Right.
Well, you know, so when you're in those pressured situations, you have to have, you know, your village of people that you can trust that could really, really tell you the deal. I did another situation, and I said this at my retirement party. You know, I was going to change everybody's tour because I didn't know how we were going to create what we did before, the supervisor's tour. And I had a conversation with my wife, and she basically laid me out and said how that was the dumbest decision that you could possibly make, affect people's lives of that nature. And because I had the transfers ready and everything, the notifications, the transfer, and I held off on it.
Right.
So again, those issues are tough issues.
Yeah.
But you have to stay centered in your leadership. And then I'm saying this to anybody who wants to be a leader. You have to lead with integrity. Your integrity has to be unquestioned. People may not like you, right? But you have to have a level of integrity. Not like, you didn't like this decision, I got it. But when people question or believe your integrity can be in question, I think your leadership goes down the drain right then and there.
So it's funny you say that. I remember when I was in PSA 2, this girl was pregnant. She had a baby. What they get, like 5 weeks, FML, like whatever you call it. So she gets her 5 weeks. I think she wanted like a couple of weeks extra. So give her like 2 more weeks. But I'm like, I can't do this for everybody. Like, yo, she gotta get back to work. So I'm at my desk one day, and I hear, wah, wah. So I'm like, who's outside? So the secretary comes in and is like, such and such is here to see you. I'm like, oh, okay, let me see the baby. She comes in and she's like, I really need some more time. I'm like, girl, if you'll give first, take the baby. Get the baby out my office first of all. I sit the girl down like, yo, I can't give you 4 months. Cause now the next girl get pregnant. You know what I'm saying, Kev? Like, it's tough decisions, but it was fun. But I never forget she brought that damn baby in there, breastfeeding, crying, and thought that was gonna move me. But it was like, you already went way over your time. But those decisions that you have to make as a commander. How can departments balance holding officers accountable while also supporting their wellness and professional development?
Well, I think it comes, again, down to, being very direct on what's expected of police officers, having the supervision that supports the police officers, and understanding that police officers, live complicated lives. We had the model, the warrior concept of policing where, we're warriors to stand up, but we're humans, right? So you have to take into account the whole officer. Corey, when you and I first came on the job, it was sit down, shut up, do this, that, blah, blah, blah. That's not the society in which we live in anymore, right, in any occupation, right? But we have standards in this department, and we have to hold these officers to that standard, and it comes with consistency. One of the biggest things that, when you speak to police officers, that they see one of the biggest challenges is that inconsistent. You hot one day, you're cold the next day. This is good one day, the next day it's not good. So those things, if you're consistent in what you expect of the officers, you're consistent on how you hold them accountable, I think that goes well to help the police officers because they know what to expect when they come into work, and they could also balance whatever issues they may have at home.
Okay. Over the last 3.5 years, or 3 years and 8 months under the Mayor Eric Adams regime, it's been very difficult for police also. I know that for a fact. Over the last year, several senior members of the NYPD phones have been taken by the feds, and I was praying so hard your phone wasn't taken. I was like, please don't let my bro be involved in none of this nonsense, because I know that you're close to, some of the players that's there. But I never question your integrity. But you never know. You could have just been at dinner with somebody and said something crazy, and now they're going to take your phone. Being in senior leadership roles, what does it mean personally and professionally when your phone is taken by federal authorities? Which you don't know.
No,
but
yeah. Well, let me set this clear.
No.
I gotta set the record straight because there was an article said that my phone was seized. And
I do remember that.
I've never had any anything seized from me by any law enforcement agency, period, point blank. So there was an article which my name was put in there.
It was.
And it was false, to be quite honest with you.
Setting the record straight on Corey's Corner.
And so I think, when that happened, listen, I can't speak for other people. I'm going to speak for myself. Sometimes in every agency, you have issues. Things come up. Things have to be investigated. But that shouldn't stop who you are as a person, to be quite honest with you. And again, if you're consistent and you have a level and you lead with integrity, again, I'm not saying perfection. If you lead with a level of integrity, those things don't really matter. You just go on and let's do what's next. You know.
Okay, we wind it down. What does modern policing need to look like in 2025 and beyond if we want safer communities and stronger relationships?
But I think modern policing in 2025 needs to incorporate technology, obviously, but you're never going to replace the police officer that interacts with the community. You have to use the technology, the tools that you have, and you have to work with the community and interact with the community. With all the advancements we have in technology, at the end of the day, especially here in the city, there's going to be two cops that's going to come out of a radio car that's going to knock on the door and interact for whatever the situation is. So we have to engage the community, listen to the community, but also the community has to have a venue where they can listen to the police. And so you have to use all those tools. I think also modern policing also is heavily dependent on leadership and supervision. We could have all the tools, the body worn camera. We could have the drones. We could have the tracking of the police officer's car, things of that nature, all the technology, the ring camera, all that good stuff. But you have to have the supervisors that mentor, train, guide, and protect the men and women that go out there and do the job each and every day. That's what modern policing looks like, in my personal opinion. Now and going forward, that's what it should look like.
Okay. You and your lovely wife, Dr. Reverend Darlene Williams, have built a life of service together. How has family grounded you throughout this career? And what does legacy look like for you now?
Well, again, like we said before, it's not about the legacy, but it's, family was very grounded to me.
I had to bring my sister name up here.
My wife's very supportive of my career. My wife had a very good advantage because she had my mother. My mother sat down and had a very interesting conversation with my wife when I first became a police officer. But the family has been the center of it all, because at the end of the day, we take our titles away. It's about the family, so you have to be centered with with your family, and it continues. I don't think of it as a legacy, but I look back, I look proud. My father was a sergeant, retired sergeant in the New York City Police Department. I was very fortunate to retire as an assistant chief, and now I have one of my children. He's on the job as a detective. So obviously, if you want to use a legacy, use that word, the blue bloods, black bloods, whatever you want to say. So it's proud to see that and understand that the legacy is going to continue in that essence. But I'm more proud of how my family helped me make an impact in all the places where I worked, because I understood the family dynamic. They supported me, and I used that as a model of where I worked and tried to implement some of the things from that premise.
What inspired you to start K.A. Williams Advisor? Was it a money grab, or you really trying to put some information out there to help people be better leaders?
It was one, to make better leaders. To be quite honest,
to make money,
right? I mean, obviously, you want to be fairly compensated. Let's be honest with that.
Exactly.
Right? I keep it real. I keep it a buck, right? But also, you'll see, especially in a lot of different communities, when it centers around public safety, when one of the things we do crisis management, emergency preparedness. A lot of agencies or a lot of organizations don't understand the importance of it. And when you look at, whether it's a church, whether it's a school, or they don't understand. It doesn't matter until it matters.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't matter until it matters. So, one of the things I noticed, that there was a gap there where you had agencies and you had community organizations, you had churches, things of that nature, civic organizations that needed that type of help. So I'm here to help people, whatever those needs in regards to that. And then the other thing, coming with 29 years of experience, and 25 of it being in leadership and supervision and law enforcement, it's critical that today's leaders, lead with ethical, in an ethical manner, lead with integrity. So that's one of the things that we try to do. We have some things in works with certain law agencies where we're going to do some leadership training, because like I said before, It all starts and falls with leadership and supervision. Corey, you've been around a long time. That drip, if you do not stop that drip, it's going to turn into something bigger.
Exactly.
And you can look at almost any case study that deals with, something bad happening in an agency.
Yep.
It always, almost 92% of the time, comes with a failure in leadership and supervision. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. I want to be a part of that conversation, helping agencies realize the importance. Think about it, Corey. You go to the academy for 6 months to learn to become a police officer. You go to, in certain agencies, you go to what we call training to be a leader for 4 weeks. You go from 6 months to 4 weeks, and now you're a leader of men and women who can make life and death decisions.
That's right.
I think there's a gap there that needs to be addressed.
It's a big gap. So with Zoran Mandami being the mayor of New York City, and all the police unions are up in arms, all the politicians saying he's going to kill the NYPD because he want to bring people, mental health professionals to the scene, which I don't really have a problem with. They've been doing it all over the country. I think y'all started some a few years ago. We started a little project with a couple of precincts, was bringing mental health professionals to the scene. As someone who understands the department from the inside at every level, what do you think his election signals for the NYPD and policing in this city moving forward?
I think his election signals that there's going to be some change, obviously, with every new administration. The question is how drastic the change is going to be. I went through a couple of mayors, a couple of administrations. We changed, but we can only change by so much, because at the end of the day, there's a core mission in the New York City Police Department, and that core mission is gonna stay.
Yo, Kev, I tell everybody the same thing.
Now you have to look. Now, are there ways you could look to see where things can be done differently? Like one of the things, coming from the 90s, police handle everything. Problem, police. Problem, police.
Right.
Problem, we threw the police at every problem.
Cat in the hat,
right?
Police. Accident, police. Everything, police.
And we were able to see now how that doesn't necessarily is effective. It's not fair to the community. It's not fair to the police officers. You're asking a police officer to do this, and now you're asking them to do this. But we've seen examples that have worked, where you use other city agencies. The first thing that comes to mind, you look at the Department of Sanitation. We used to be, the New York City Police, but I'm not going to say we, they used to be the lead agency in regards to vending.
Right.
Why did we need police officers to do vending enforcement?
Right.
It moved to the Department of Sanitation. A lot of work that was done around the illegal smoke shops. Let's get the sheriff involved in that.
Exactly.
Again, so I think his administration or any administration needs to take an honest look on things that we can do differently in policing. And I believe there are certain things that probably can be done differently to strike that balance, to be quite honest with you. So, we'll see what the future holds, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I don't bring up, you came through the Eagle program. The Eagle program was a class that myself, Lieutenant Julian Harper, and Lieutenant Leon Leslie, we all got promoted to sergeant lieutenant, and we felt like we had to give back. So we started teaching young officers to become sergeants, lieutenants, and captains. And you one of our 8 students. And we used to do the war games. You and Yusuf. Yusuf will be looking at the Yusuf Thomas.
And I beat him.
Looking at,
I beat you, Yusuf.
You beat. So how important is it for people like we gave back? And I know that you came back because we would invite you when we did other classes. And we retired, you was going back to speak because I would see on social media. How important it is for leaders that make it to give back to the ones coming up.
It is imperative that as a leader that you give back, that you mentor the next generation. You guide, you coach them, you coach the next generation. One, you don't want them to make mistakes that you made, to be quite honest with you. If the example that's given that I use, Corey, we're both going down south. You get on 95, 2 hours ahead of me. You see that there's an accident at the Delaware Memorial Bridge. If you call me, should I not change my route? So that's kind of what we need to do as leaders. We need to mentor the next generation and encourage them, especially when you look at our, so-called black and brown. I hate using that term, but when you look at our office, that's one of the things the Eagle, it was able to put together people that I never knew in the police. So that's how I met you, to be very clear, and work up in this agency and use, in various positions in this agency. But it is absolutely critical, you as a leader. What sense does it make for me to lead this agency and not have people that came behind me that can, improve police community relations, improve how our officers are treated, improve how, things are seen, so it's critical because this doesn't stop with you.
Right.
Again, it goes back to what we said earlier. It's not about your legacy, it's about the impact. Right. So what impact are you putting on the future of policing or the future of men and women in the agency in which you work in?
Okay. Well, before we wrap, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to bring out?
No, I thought you would talk a little bit more about the Eagle thing, and to be quite honest with how that was a powerful experience. Corey, you and I came on this job at a time when there was a real push for, black leadership and black supervision.
We can name all the black chiefs.
Yeah.
You can't name them all now.
You can't name. Yeah, actually, when we came on early on, you knew like there was 4 black leaders,
Nelson,
right? And even before that, before Nelson was an inspector when I first met him,
right? And
to see the change that you see in the agency, and to really sit back and know that you had a part in that. Like you said, you did the Eagle, I did Eagle, right. The people that came out to sit there. It always strikes me. I remember back in 2009 when I became a captain, during African American History Month, they did a collage of pictures of all the African American executives.
I still got that picture.
And every picture was like this big.
Yeah.
You fast forward to last year, the pictures were this big. So that shows the progress we made.
That's
right. But if you're going to make the progress, you got to be able to understand that the community needs you and the police officers need you. And there's not a competing thing right there. You could do both, to be quite honest with you.
It's funny because I always tell people about this Eagle program. I say, let me tell you some former Eagle students. Rodney Harrison, Juanita Holmes, Kevin Williams, Miguel Iglesias, like all of these people have gone on and spread wings and done some phenomenal things. And it makes me feel good to see you and the rest of them just going places, man. I love you. But thank you for your decades of service, your leadership, your transparency, and your impact both on the NYPD and the community. Your story is a blueprint for what principled leadership looks like. We appreciate you for coming on Corey's Corner. I love you, my brother.
Love you too, man.
And
like one of the things we used to say, Queen South Side, we outside.
South side, we outside. All right, before we go, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, A+ Jewelry, which is located in the Tri-County Mall in Levittown, Long Island. Stop by and see them at 3041 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown, New York, for quality pieces, great service, and jewelry that truly stands out. Make sure you tell them that Corey Corner sent you. Ask for B. John. He's the owner. For our listeners, if you found value in today's episode, make sure you follow, subscribe, and support. This has been another episode of Corey's Corner. Until next time, keep pushing, keep grinding, and remember, it's not where you start, it's always about where you finish. I'm Corey Pegues, and I always keep it right, not real. Peace.
Special thanks to our executive producer, our engineers, and much respect to Corrupt Mob for making Corey's Corner possible.
Once a cop, let it knock, yeah. I for one thing we should celebrate redemption instead of condemning it. Corey Pegues, up, talking truth, bruh. Check it out. Once a cop.